All right, y'all. So we're here. I appreciate your patience with the changes I had to make. They were not planned, so I'm sorry about that. So in the meantime, we'll talk about this while we can. So first thing that we'll talk about, right, is the peer review assignments. So we'll start with the first thing that I think there's been some confusion on, right? So if we look at the assignments that we have to do for this, right? So there is this first box that we have, right, which is going to be about criteria and why we study theory, right? And then we later add this correlates box. I still hate my print. So we have the correlates, right? And then we have the good theory or bad theory. If you look at the requirements, right, you can do a good or bad one. It doesn't really matter, but you do have to pick one. And then for this fourth one, let's say we did bad theory for peer review assignment 4, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So obviously, like all of these, right, are kind of a lot of work, and especially these last two, right? These two right here are the most work out of it, and that's why the point value is put into place, right? So the thing that I've heard from a couple students, right, is that they think that all of these, right, we do each of these assignments, right? So all 4 of these assignments and the final term paper, like in the last 2 weeks, right? And, I've had some students who are a bit unhappy with that, right? They feel like, Jesus, this is a lot of work and the final paper. And if I'm a student, right, or if I'm an instructor, right, man, I'd kind of think, my professor's kind of a tool for doing that. And it would be kind of a tool to do that. But that's not what's happening, right? If we look at the assignments, right, so if we look at, I'm calling it peer review. So peer review 1 through 4, these have all the requirements for the final paper, right? Because if you look at the assignment requirements for the final paper, we do have to talk about criteria, we do have to talk about correlates, we have to talk about a good theory and a bad theory, right? So these peer review assignments mimic and mirror what you have to do with the final paper. So the final paper is a combination of all peer review assignments, right? All you're doing for the final paper is looping all these together, right? And stitching them together to create one final paper. You do not have to select new theories for the final paper. You do not have to rewrite the criteria section. You do not have to rewrite the correlate section or anything like that, right? Like that's simply not required for this, right? So the idea that what we were the point of why we're doing this, right, is that we are scaffolding the paper. So, everyone has to do a final paper regardless of which theory class you take. But the way that we have it now is that throughout the entire term, you've been working on the final paper, so there are no last minute surprises. And when you scaffold it this way, we work on it the entire semester. So there is no last minute grasp of well, what do I have to do? How do I write? Get feedback and things like that, right? You're working on it all the way. So all of these are stitched together and this will equal the final paper. So you do not have to write all these peer review assignments and then write a completely new final paper. That's not what happens. The goal of this, right, is that you get since these are each part of the final paper, you hear about things that we talk about in class, pitfalls to look forward to that might happen, right? And then you edit and correct your past assignments. So if I say, hey, students often struggle because of this, we edit and correct the peer review assignments as we go, and then we put them together. So hopefully the final paper is a better product. And since you've been working on it incrementally, right, throughout the semester, there is no like, oh my God, what do I do? Like for the final paper kind of thing, because you've been working on it, right? So there's nothing really new you have to do at the end because you've constantly been working on it. You just have to make some changes, edit for grammar, make sure things are in APA format, making sure you meet all the requirements and stuff like that. That's all that's required. So again, there is no peer review assignments and the final paper, two completely separate documents, right? You are working on each of the peer review assignments, and that that part's important but that's also the requirements for the final term paper. So there isn't nothing new. You're just stitching it together, editing it, and making a final paper. Hopefully that has cleared up some issues and concerns, because I know that's been an issue. So we'll end the first video there in terms of like clarifying the expectations for this paper.